Welcome to Iron Summit, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of becoming your best self, blending expert insights on strength training, smart recovery, optimal nutrition, and mindset mastery to help you elevate your game.
What's up, guys? If you're looking to level up your training, click the link in the description and check out the Iron Summit Gains Emporium. Our strength training plans are designed to help you pack on muscle, and with our software, you can track every workout right from your phone. Plus, you'll have direct access to us for any questions along the way. Don't just train, level up your training.
All right, what's up, Garrett? Excited to have you on today. Garrett is, was introduced actually by our good friend Andrew, who is code Nectar, new sponsor of this podcast. And Garrett is a really knowledgeable coach, trainer, someone I've seen a lot of his stuff and really respect his opinion. I can tell you my favorite video of yours. Actually, Andrew sent it to me. But just excited to have you on and talk about meathead stuff for like a little bit here.
Let's dive into it. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this is sick. I do want to know which video that is, by the way.
It was on
right.
your story, but someone
can't
asked you
just-
about receipt touching, and you basically said something along the lines of, "It's only the dorks worry about touching receipts." Like, basically, it's not a good thing to be doing like all day, every day. But like, I can't remember exactly. I'm paraphrasing for sure, but it was like, find the highest value levers, pull those first, and then start worrying about those little things, which is like Ryan and I preach that all the time on Iron Summit. So I was like,
Yeah.
we got to get this guy on. He gets it.
Yeah, I think people get too caught up in the little details. Like you said, like you just want to think about what will actually give you the most leverage. And first, that's like what's going in your mouth and how you're moving your body around and how you're sleeping. And receipt touching, though it is bad, you should probably quit your cashier job. It's not the biggest deal that you need to focus on. Step one.
Yeah, that's funny. I think we were just talking about this too, but like the whole social media thing is you got to have like kind of a hot take. So I feel like people talking about receipts and taking that to the extreme has made this a much bigger deal. But kind of on that same thread, we were just talking about how you've kind of switched up your content a little bit. I know we just talked about this offline, but now that we're recording, can you talk a little bit about how that's changed and how you think about social media and how that's evolved over the last, I don't know, year or couple of years?
Yeah. So I was talking about this on my story last night, actually. When you want to start to progress with anything, whether that has to do with your health and your physique or your finances, making more money, or relationships, improving your communication skills, or in my case, like building a social media account, you look at the people that are a step ahead of you or they're further down the path. And those are your models for success and the people that you want to essentially copy or emulate and just follow in their footsteps. And I think it's definitely true that sometimes you can, if you're not careful and you're not very scrutinous of the people that you're trying to follow, you can pick up bad habits or just, go down the wrong path without necessarily knowing that it is the wrong path. And, I'm susceptible to mistake just like anybody is. This everything is trial and error at the end of the day. Like even as far as my training philosophies go, there's all sorts of like great health and fitness tips, but if you can't apply it to your lifestyle and it's not like practical to you, it doesn't really make sense to follow it. But in the case of social media, I definitely fell into the trap of seeing, okay, people that, they try to replicate this Andrew Tate, sort of a harsh, vulgar sort of lifestyle that in my opinion now glorifies the wrong things. I saw those people getting more views, getting more engagement. And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's what works. That's what I should follow. Like I should sort of try to blend what I do with that. And part of that was necessary because I had to figure out what I don't want to do and like what isn't me. Sometimes you got to go too far to realize what's right or what's true to you. And like I started getting results from it. Like I was telling you guys earlier, one of my best videos was something called the Playboy Potion. And I think I think saying that out loud is kind of funny, but like that wasn't the only video. There's just like other, I guess, vibes and rhetoric that I was pushing out that I didn't necessarily agree with. And when it comes out, like if your thoughts, your words, and your actions aren't aligned, like people are going to be able to sniff out that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's there's these guys that I used to follow that talk about, personal development and, there's this common concept of just being congruent across the board, which is being aligned in your thoughts, words, and actions. And like the other thing too, being that my heart wasn't like fully in it, as cheesy as that is to say, I was actively pushing away the right people that would have been a good fit to work with me. So like, I'm getting views, getting engagement, getting all this exposure, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that could have used my advice and could have used my help, because I do think that I have, the best information in terms of like men's health and like how to apply it. Like there's probably guys that saw my videos and were just like, this fucking guy like
This
wrote me
fucking
off
guy.
as one of these, Andrew Tate clones and just scrolled past, and they never like took a look at my account, and maybe they're still at step one, or they couldn't get the results as fast as they could have had they taken my advice. So like I was just thinking about this over the last month, went through a lot of I guess interchange, and after a lot of introspection and reflection, I just decided that I gotta stop chasing, views and engagement with stuff that's like not in alignment with me. And the response, like I just decided to share this instead of like only showing it. Cause I think part of growing a social media account just comes down to authenticity and developing like a trust and connection with your audience. It's not necessarily the tips and like the advice that you have that's gonna build that connection and trust in you to look to work with you, let alone just like listen to your advice. So I was just trying to be like real raw, open and honest, and kind of let people know where I'm at and where my head's at, and just show that I'm not perfect either. I'm still going through my own trial and error, and I don't got it all figured out. I'm still learning, and it's just about, taking the reference experiences that you've gathered over the years after consistent action and just iterating, adjusting, and continuing to take more action.
How are you? I think it's a great thing that you're showing up more aligned for your, like with yourself. If nothing else, for yourself. I think it'll also, it sounds like you'll get more of the right people, be able to help more people. How are you, like, what's your game plan for how you're going to show up if it's not, Playboy Garrett, Playboy Potion Garrett? Like,
Yeah.
what's the game plan now?
Yeah. So I think, definitely just the advice is pretty much going to be the same. It's just going to be coming from a different place. I'm just not gonna, I would push a lot of like vulgar things. Like I was going earlier this year, I was doing these full day of eating videos, and like I would make these crazy hooks, which were getting, they were getting a lot of engagement. Like I think
Give us
one of
an
them was,
example.
what's that?
Give us an example.
Okay.
Listen up. Ryan and I, we're not usually big fans of pre-workouts. As Ryan and I have discussed a lot in the past, they're either usually full of shit, way underdosed on the good stuff, and overdosed on the stim. Thankfully for us, we have had our prayers answered. Code Nutra just launched their all natural organic pre workout called Code Nectar. If Ryan and I were to design a pre workout, this would be it. 150 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, green tea and guarana, beetroot extract for the vasodilation, and L-theanine to smooth all that out. Best part, it's all delivered by honey and Redmond's real salt. That's a good pre-workout. Go get some. CodeNutra.com and use code IRON for 15% off.
Here's a full day of eating if you want your girl to stop faking all her orgasms with you. I'd say it would be stuff like
Ridiculous.
that. And that's in my head, that's funny. Like
It is funny.
this is the
It's
meathead
funny,
shit
but like
that
if
you were
someone's
talking about.
taking you seriously for that, then it's like, yeah, I see what you're saying. Also, if it's not like you, but it is a funny line. Like,
Yeah.
it's no doubt.
Yeah. But I think I've tried to think about like over this over the summer, I like at the beginning of the summer, I was totally like, okay, I'm just here to like live my life and sort of have fun, start enjoying the party, so to speak. And like towards the end of the summer, I was like, okay, I'm 30 years old. I'm starting to like transition more to like, not that I'm like an old man, but like eventually I want to build a family and like, find a wife and just start to transition into that area of life and not so much like this, international playboy thing that
Wow.
Yeah.
that I've been sort of like
International
lingering in.
playboy. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just going to be I guess more like wholesome, but like just stuff about how to like my whole goal has been in the background. My whole goal has been teaching other guys how to become the best man they can be. And that's, obviously fitness is the foundation for that. But, with your mindset, that moves into making money and then eventually fixing your communication and your relationships and all these things are intertwined together. So it's still going to be about, how to level up each one of these like power bars, so to speak, to make yourself as well-rounded and I guess effective across the board, but just doing it in a way that's not like showboaty, like a
Yeah.
lot more grounded and I hesitate to say professional, but
I know,
just
I see what you're saying
yeah.
for sure.
Well, I think
We got to think of, oh, go ahead, Ryan.
I think that's like a great way to like be more in alignment where if you're going to do this for a long time, it's got to be authentic, and you might see like your initial views drop a little bit or something, or but then you'll get the much more engaged content. I think long term, like it'll be a really good move for you, even like you're doing it for personal reasons, but also like just in terms of engagement and followers, I'm sure it pays off over the long run. And I think people, especially with, I mean, the amount of like fake and AI stuff there is now, and just the amount of content that is constantly pumped out every day, people connect to stories and authenticity. And so, like, the more you can get vulnerable with people. But I'd be curious, like, what are your thoughts on? I think there's a fine line of, this is your profession, being raw and real is like important and drives engagement, but also like the pressure of, constantly filming stuff, having your life being overshared maybe. How do you think about that balance and like, hey, this is a work day versus this is I'm just trying to live my life and not, document it because it's good content.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking on with my friend James about this over the summer. There's this money Twitter quote that you're living life for a living. And
Yeah.
I've pretty much gotten there where in the beginning, like in uh 2023 is where I really dove into the content again. And I had been building an account like in like 2019 for the first time, but I went back into it in 2023. That's kind of when I started everything again. At that time, it was very tough to post really anything. I was super self-conscious about whether or not it would be received well and if I, looked cool and all this sorts of stuff. Um, over the last 2 years, I've just like little by little been adding stuff and adding stuff. And, now at this point, those two areas of my life have sort of like blended together. Like I wake up, I'm thinking about either content or like messages that I have to send out throughout the day. I'm going through calls, and on the calls I'm thinking about more content that I could make because of stuff I've spoken about with different clients. When I have downtime, I'm just like I get to express my creativity through content, which is pretty cool. I would like to say I'm an artistic type of person, even though it doesn't really seem like it on the forefront, but at the end of the day, that is where I get a lot of joy, is from making content that is in alignment with me. And if that pays off and that gets good engagement, like that's a lot more fulfilling than anything else. So I don't have a clock in time and a clock out time. And I've gotten to the point where it doesn't seem like I'm working all the time. I'm just, when I'm eating food, I'm just taking a couple of clicks and stuff. I remember when I first started recording myself when I was eating. I'd be out at dinner and I'd be like, whoa, whoa, everybody, wait a second. I got to take a video of the food or whatever.
Yeah.
And nowadays I'm having a conversation. I'm just like taking a clip. Nobody even notices. It's just like, it's hidden in my lifestyle now, just because I've sort of made it my second nature. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know, in the beginning, when you're building up any skill, you're sort of like, you're very focused on it and diligent about, you know, all the details of the scenario. But over time, just after consistent action, you know, you sort of win back some mental capital and focus to focus on other things, just because you've been doing it for so long and you don't have to, I guess, think about it. It's like a muscle
Yeah.
that you build up over time. So
Second nature.
yeah, I've
Yeah.
reached the unconscious competence
Yeah.
part of it, I guess.
Yeah.
What let's get, so your specialty, you said at the beginning, is really men's health, improving men's health through, you said, like fitness, mindset, communication, relationships, all intertwined. Let's get into some of the fitness stuff, because
Yeah,
that's what we're here for. Let's be honest.
absolutely.
You said three biggest movers are what you put in your mouth, how you move your body, and how you sleep, which
Mhm.
Ryan and I basically say the exact same thing on repeat. Let's start with like food intake. We can get into supplements as well, because I guess that counts as what you put in your mouth. But what's your take there? What are the biggest movers for men's health on diet?
Yeah. And I've gone through a very interesting journey with this, because I went from, you know, like a 18, 19-year-old kid to like not tracking macros and just like eating as much as I can to gain, to a few years later, finally starting to count calories and macros after years of people drilling it into my head and me just being like, nah, I don't need to do it. And when I started counting calories and macros, like that was the first time I ever got to single digit body fat, like in a matter of like 2 months. So after years of not, you know, not having a handle on my physique, like within 2 months, like all of a sudden I'm shredded. And I was like, what the hell? And yeah, so I did that for a number of years too. And then my all while making some pretty bad lifestyle and diet decisions. So I used to like eat anything, like if it fits your macros, which looking back on it, it's supposed to be you eat like, you know, 80/20 and eat mostly good foods
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah, you were
20%
fitting
bad.
whatever in the macros.
But yeah, we were doing like 50/50 or like 20% good, 80% bad, and just like terrible food so long as it hit the macros. And I was able to stay really lean.
Yeah, I
But
just don't feel very good, huh?
yeah, I look at pictures of myself in 2018 and 2019, shredded, but my face is like puffy and like inflamed and like red, which is kind of interesting. And you know, all sorts of other mishaps I was making, I guess. And then it wasn't until 2022, 2021, 2022 that I realized that my health was really deteriorating. And I was just like beating the heck out of myself. I was in a life insurance agency in this like hustle culture where sleep is for the weak. I can do an all-nighter and go to work tomorrow on 3 hours of sleep because I'm that guy and I can handle it, and I couldn't. And after a while, on top of like heavy drinking and all sorts of other stuff, it started to really take its toll, to where my metabolism for sure was slowing down, because I was getting like brain fog. I was having low energy, just overly stressed and anxious. And, you know, I was losing my body fat percentage, and my muscle and strength was going down, and everything was breaking. I was like, what the hell is going on? So that was where I hit this like wall, and I just decided like I got to get my health in check, because this is definitely the problem. And this is where I this is where I found out about like biohacking and holistic health and natural health, and the importance of you know, nurturing your hormonal function. And I found out about some guys, like there's this guy named Christopher Walker. He has a company called Umzu, which is a
Yeah,
supplement company.
I've
He's in
I've met
Colorado too, I
yeah,
think.
I've met him in person a few times.
Really?
My
Okay,
wife has
awesome.
done work with his business.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take his magnesium every night is the one I'm taking. But he was one of the first people that I guess red pilled me on health, so to speak. And yeah, like him and one of my other mentors, Lucas Owen, who's Australia's leading biohacker. I actually worked in Lucas's company a year or two ago. But anyway, I I started to listen to all this information these guys were saying that was completely against the grain. They're talking about, and this is something I see across the biohacking space is focusing on the animal-based diet and, chicken, rice, and veggies. I guess you could say that's in the animal-based diet, but from that moment, just started to focus on red meat, eggs, fruit juice, high quality dairy, bee products like honey and bee pollen and royal jelly. And then, sometimes sweet potato and, recently got into raw carrots.
I want.
Yeah, just like
Like a
little
good
things
carrot.
around the edges. Yeah.
It's
But
awesome.
I started eating like that and very quickly, amongst like other things that I did. So like I had to fix my sleep and, quit drinking and all these other things. But with that diet specifically, my energy just started to snap back. I think like the diet actually helped me sleep better, and me sleeping better and eating better helped me stay locked in on my training. But I think with the diet alone, just it made me feel so much better that I just didn't want to eat anything outside of that. And I really leaned into that diet and I started building muscle and losing fat simultaneously, which is something, if you asked me that 5 years ago, I would have told you that was impossible. Part of that season, I probably did gain some, muscle memory back, but then I got like bigger and leaner than I'd ever been before. And I went through a couple of like peaks and valleys. 2023, there's some stuff going on in my life to where I couldn't really focus on diet and training too much. But then towards the end of the year, uh, got back into just being 100% on that diet, got the training in place and the sleep. Like over a 5 month span, I put like 15 pounds of lean mass on and got leaner towards the end of it. And then I was up, never been past like 174, 175 lean in my life. And all of a sudden I'm up at like 182. And it wasn't that I was changing up my macros or my training. It was really just the diet and like, the lifestyle that had changed. And it really just comes down to nurturing your hormonal health so that these like natural steroid hormones that are already present within your body can have a chance to get fleshed out. Like this is something I can't remember who said this. I can't really take credit for it, but your body wants to produce high testosterone and, DHT and all these other anabolic hormones. And it's just like what we eat and what we do and how we live that gets in the way of that. And that's why a lot of guys just don't get to tap into it. It's because they're putting a blockade somewhere. And it's just about figuring out where you need to, I guess, shatter those blockades to let your body's natural process come to fruition.
What? How tall are you?
I am in the morning on the dot, I'm 5'11".
When he starts with, well, in the morning when I'm feeling good,
Yeah.
you can round that to 6. We'll give you 6.
I grew over the last like year, which is kind of crazy because I just turned 30.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's
I grew through
maybe it's the
college,
hormones.
but not in the last year.
Yeah.
But
I've grown like a half an inch over the last
heck yeah. Yeah, that is maybe it is the hormones. What do you get regular blood work?
I've been going every 6 months to a year. Yeah.
Nice. And what is your like testosterone? Do you have like a before and after your lifestyle, or did you start doing it after your
I
lifestyle?
started doing it after. So the first time I got it
Um,
checked was last year in March, I think. And it was the total was 865. And the free was like 18. And then this year I think it was May or June, I'm hanging out around like 720 total. And then I think it's like either 13 or 15 was the free at that time. I got to get it tested again though, because I woke up with like a horrible pain in my back. I like tweaked my back washing this heavy ass cast iron uh pan in my sink. Yeah. Coincidentally, it was the night before the test, so I woke up in
Yeah,
excruciating pain, and it went away in like a day or two. But it was unfortunate how it happened. But I think
for sure.
my
That stuff can
cortisol was
affect
as high as it could be,
yeah.
which I think
It
is
no, that stuff
taking a hit on
affects
the
it.
test.
I think, that's a super underrated piece of blood testing is, like, being aware of what's happening around your test.
Yeah,
I've had it, like if you, like, crush legs the day before doing a blood test, you're like your testosterone is tanked.
yeah,
But, yeah, I've done it. I didn't know that, and I went in and I got a test and it was, like, 200, and I was like,
damn,
"What is happening?" And my doctor was like, "Well, what'd you do the day before?" I was like, "Well, I think I even yeah, like, the evening before a fasted test, I had crushed legs." He was like,
damn.
"Alright, let's try it without that." And it's not like my testosterone is just naturally not that high. It's like 500 to 600, which isn't bad, but it's
Hmm.
not, like, crazy high. But then now, like, if I just, like, take the day off before, I'm, like, kinda consistently in that range, and my free is, like, 10 to 12.
Hmm.
But, yeah, I think it's also to your point, Ryan, I wanna hear your opinion on this because, like, I think if you live a healthy lifestyle, you allow your body to create more of the steroid hormones, but you also like the other side of it is like how well you utilize those. And if you're living healthy, clean, you're recovering well, you can utilize the hormones more effectively. So there's like two parts of that equation for sure. It's not just having more of them, but it's also like using them better.
Yeah, I think to that point too, like most people would probably benefit from doing less. Like I think everybody lives in like a hyper stimulated, hyper like cortisol state. And so like, I don't know, I mean, you definitely gotta train. I'm not saying like don't train a lot, but I'm just saying, the people that are going to the gym 6, 7 days a week and like crushing workouts, trying to do 2 a days, running 20 miles on a Sunday and then trying to hit legs on a Monday. Like I think you make a lot more progress by doing less sometimes. I don't know. I feel like I've felt that in my own training and it took a long time to realize
100%.
that. And it kind of like if you're in a busy, stressful part of life, you probably need to tone back other parts of if you're training really hard, hopefully you're not super stressed at work, and sometimes like life just happens. But yeah, it's a tough balance. But to that point, Garrett, like what does your training look like? How has that changed over the years?
Yeah, yeah. That's actually a great segue what you just said because I wouldn't say that I'm anti cardio, but a lot of people come to me saying that they're training a ton and they're doing a ton of cardio and they say I need it to de-stress, but that is
That is stress.
actually what's stressing them. Yeah. And yeah, it's like part of my approach over the last like 2-3 years with this hormone thing is figuring out every which way I can to lower stress and lower my stress hormones so my reproductive hormones can stay high. And that's why, that's not why, but I train 3 days a week. I've been doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday for like the last 8 to 9 years. And I didn't find out until like couple years ago when I started working with Lucas Owen, who he talks a lot about pharmacology and holistic health and biohacking and stuff. But 3 to 4 days a week of heavy weight training is usually the best workout schedule for testosterone production. And that's not that you can't do more, but you don't want to go way too over the top because it's not just, the time that you're training. It's like, you need to recover from that training and you need to allow your central nervous system and your local nerves going throughout your whole body, which are really actually moving everything. You need those to get a rest so that they can come back stronger. So it makes sense looking back on, my years of training, why I got such good results because I was only doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it's like, instead of spreading yourself so thin. It's like I use this analogy sometimes. You're trying to wash something off on your car. You don't use the shower setting to get like something that's crusted off on your car off. You use the jet and you just sort of like pinpoint that energy a lot more. You focus it a little bit more strategically, or like using a pressure washer and preserving that energy so that number one, it's more flexible with your life. but also, it just sort of makes it fun too. Cause part of it is I have a very strength focused training program. Like every week, I'm just trying to add weight or add a rep to each individual set, depending on where I'm at in the rep range. And at the end of the workout, you just hit a bunch of personal records. Like if you do it right, it's not going to happen every single set, but you're walking out of there pretty like pumped up and motivated and like just on top of the world. And now you've got 48 hours before you can go back to the gym. Now you're like itching to get back in there. And it
Yeah,
just creates this beautiful scenario for you to stay really consistent long term. Cause yeah, you can train 5, 6 days a week, and plenty of people do. But I think myself included, as well as like the people that I'm looking to help, and most people that aren't like diehard like bodybuilders or like high performance athletes and stuff, like they can maintain 3 days a week
yeah,
really consistently, but 5 or 6, they got to use a little bit of extra effort to do that.
for sure.
And even though I was saying like 3 to 4 days a week of weight training is the best for test, it's undoubtedly easier to maintain 3 versus 4.
Yeah. There's like obviously you can have well, I think a couple things. One, the more days a week you're training, the more intentional and like precise the programming has to be, because you have to like make sure you're recovering on this muscle group before training this muscle group. So you got to have like really good coach to do that, and then you got to have really like high discipline to be able to follow a program that's got like, and then you could probably have like RPEs in there and stuff that like hard to follow as just like you said, unless you're a real weirdo like myself. But like most people, it's just like the most effective program is one you can adhere to. And like 3 days a week with strength progressions. And I know you and I were talking about a little bit yesterday, Garrett, but you do like a reverse pyramid. So you kind of get some strength as well as some hypertrophy blended in there.
Mm-hmm.
You go from like 4 to 12 reps, 4 to 10 reps.
Yeah, for the most part. Couple of exercises go higher for stuff like calves or rear delts,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, for the most part.
But like if you're doing progressive overload and something like that, you're kind of getting all the major stimulus, and it's something really nice to adhere to. And then like you said, you also like, because there is that strength aspect, that like PR aspect, keep people motivated. So I think it's like you're kind of covering all the important aspects of a good program with that approach.
Are you
Yeah.
doing full body lifts? How do you structure that? And then are you doing what are you doing on the other 4 days? Are you doing any kind of cardio? Are you um, getting your steps in? Like what does the 4 days you're not training look like?
Yeah. So one last thing to note I think is notable to mention is I just try to create positive feedback loops in every area. So like specifically with the strength, if you can just get addicted to the high of hitting personal records every week, like you're not
Yeah,
going to
you got
miss any
progressive
workouts.
overload.
Yeah.
You're getting a positive feedback loop, and you're getting like the most important training principle done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just combining the strength with that mind muscle connection, you're golden. But as far as my split goes, I usually adhere to chest and arms on Monday, legs and abs on Wednesday, and then back and shoulders on Friday. So it's like a upper, lower, upper split. Even though I'm doing upper on 2 days out of the week, on the chest and arm day, like I do rear delts, which is it's your shoulder, but it's kind of like your back. And then on the back and shoulder day, like I do weighted dips, which is technically your chest. So it's like I'm hitting everything at least once, but I have a different focus on the different days. Um, and yeah. So on the other days out of the week, generally I just do walking. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm just walking. Recently, I got back into training Muay Thai again. I herniated a disc in my back last year in October, so I had to take a long while off because I couldn't do any kicks. And kind of took me out of the game for a lot of stuff, but that's since healed and I've been getting back into that. But other than that, over the summer on the weekend, I go down to the beach in Long Island with my friends, throw a football around, go swimming, go for a run here and there. Like, yeah, if somebody asks me to go for a run, like I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina with my friend Truman, and he runs a social club down there, and they have a run club on Saturdays. And he was like, "We're doing the run club," and I was like, "I guess I'm going for a 3 or 5K run, whatever it was."
So
Um,
that's where I if someone asks me to go for a run, I say no.
I usually say no. I hate running. That's one of the things, like,
I
I'll
don't say
tell
yes.
people. I'll tell
Running. I think it's like I think there's a point to where it's like, especially if your goal is to put on muscle, like it's definitely detrimental. But it is kind of nice as like if you're doing like an easy run of you like throw on a podcast or listen to some music and just like zone out for 20 minutes. Like I don't know. I think that's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
I would like it better if I was like, I don't know. It does hurt my body. If I was 20 pounds lighter, I probably would like running more. It just doesn't feel good now. Or like I like sprinting. I do like sprint work, but like long distances.
What about biking? I mean, you could just chill on a bike and it
Yeah,
wouldn't, yeah.
biking. Well, so like a road bike, I I think like I don't know if it's my weight or whatever, but like literally my first of all, I feel like my prostate's gonna explode. I'm heavy. And then my like arms are falling asleep. I like the fan bike. Like that's more comfortable. Or maybe if I got like a cruiser bike with like a big comfy seat.
Yeah, we need you to get you a cushion seat.
Yeah. I like that. Like, I mean, I'm not against steady state, but I think I like Garrett's approach of walking on off days, especially if your goal is muscle mass and like testosterone preservation, because walking is this like magic thing that you burn quite a bit of calories, keeps you lean for sure. It's great for you in every way. Like it usually like if I have a tight back or aches and pains, I just go for a long walk and like everything feels better. But it's also doesn't crush your cortisol. It's like this magic in between, and it's just so simple. It's walking.
yeah. Yeah, running, I think I have PTSD from playing lacrosse, where I'm just done with running. I'm also like 50 pounds heavier than I was back then, which it's not that I'm the biggest guy in the world. Like Max, I can't imagine you like going on a long distance run. What are you, like 245? You said
Yeah, and that's like skinny for me. I'm
that's
like
a lot.
between
Yeah.
245 and 260.
But yeah, I've just always resorted to walking, and not even that I'm trying to hit 10K steps. Like that's the cliche thing that people try to hit.
Yeah, it's a good
I
goal.
rarely hit that unless I'm like crushing an audiobook and take another lap around my city or something like that. But yeah, like I just tell people with cardio, like pick something that you would do whether it was for cardio or not, aka don't go for a brutal run every morning if you hate running.
At Iron Summit, we are about getting everything we can out of our workouts and everyday lives. If you aren't wearing a pair of barefoot or wide toe box trainers, you are leaving gains on the table. The Sashi Athletics Ronin Ichi Minimalist Trainer is a perfect barefoot shoe. Not only does it perform like other major brands on the market, it is actually good looking. Even my wife says so. Get a pair today for 10% off with the code IronSummit10. Link is in the bio.
That doesn't mean that running is inherently bad, but again, just like positive feedback loops and just finding something that you can, if not enjoy, at least be indifferent to.
Yeah, I think it's a good framework. Like whatever you're going to do consistently, you're going to be a lot healthier doing that. My one pushback to like the less cardio stuff is it just seems like, most males, like one of the biggest issues with males is heart disease. And like being healthy, like obviously is less of a risk. But I was listening to an interesting podcast. I forget what podcast it was, but it was definitely like a pretty big podcast with a bunch of, like researchers, scientists, and they're talking about how like testosterone, like men have a lot more testosterone, and testosterone is like not as good for your heart or something. Like estrogen is more heart protective. And so like most guys die of some kind of heart complication or heart disease if they die early. And so like I don't think any of us are at the age now where like that's like a super big risk factor, right? But I do think there's some value to making sure your heart is working. Cause I never really thought about cardio as like, you don't really train cardio. I was wrestling, it's like I'm getting my cardio with wrestling, other than cutting weight, I'm not doing extra cardio. But I do think it is important to spike your heart rate at some point in time. And that could be, a set of 20 on squats. Like I'm not saying you can't do it in other ways, but I think it's dangerous to never like go to that zone 4, zone 5 for your heart because you're like not using your capacity. But that's like totally anecdotal and I have no like
Yeah,
formal papers to show you on that.
I have points, but Gareth, I want to hear your comments on this. I have
Yeah.
several points.
Yeah, maybe this is like a lazy way of thinking about it, but my training is pretty high intensity, and I think I've always just sort of settled on the idea that my training is my cardio at the end of the day. It's not like I'm just going gracefully through a set of like chest flies at the gym, like the 100-year-old lady that's training beside me at like Lifetime or something. But yeah, I think I've always sort of settled on that. And even though walking isn't necessarily high intensity, like it is technically low intensity cardio. I've seen plenty. Well, I actually saw somebody post a study recently that said the more a man walks, usually the higher his testosterone is, which I thought was interesting. I'd never heard that before. I'd also never heard that estrogen was protective for cardiovascular health. So that's very interesting as well. I definitely want to look more into that because it's pretty interesting how, we were talking about earlier how, testosterone is definitely something that you want to look into, but everything affects everything. Like, testosterone is only one piece of the puzzle. And this is something that we used to talk about, when I worked with Lucas, is only focusing on testosterone is kind of like, it's shooting yourself in the foot because you neglect all the other hormones associated with whatever, you're focusing on at the moment. And it's kind of like, if you went to a mechanic and he's only focusing on the engine without focusing on like the drive shaft, transmission, all the other stuff that makes the car work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but I think maybe I'm just like lazy about it, but I think just the way that I train and the way that I live my life has been, I guess, enough for me. But sometimes I can see how for other people, it might take a little bit more thought and I guess TLC.
Yeah. I think overall, Ryan, I like totally agree. Like heart health is super important. And I also agree with Gail, like if you're training hard in the weight room, you're probably doing enough to maintain your heart health or at least close to it. Cause there's also like the opposite side of that is like endurance athletes or people who live in a
Yeah,
3 zone 4 are actually at higher risk
for sure.
cardiovascular events than those people who are like just getting there occasionally. One way I like to kind of address this is and I'm actually doing this right now, is I'll take every, I don't know, 8 to 12 weeks of training. And this is also credit to my coach, Adam Miller, who's a genius at this stuff, but I'll do like systemic training where I'm lifting weights, but it's like kind of full body. It's like bodybuilder CrossFit. It's like leg press into dumbbell bench, into like
Cluster sets.
flies. Yeah. And you're like running around, but my heart rate's at like 170 to 180 the whole time. Do it for 2 weeks. I don't particularly enjoy it. It's like taking the pill you don't want to take. But then, like, look, we like covered it. You train systemic really hard. And then if you don't just train in the same stimulus the whole time anyway, then when you go back to like a hypertrophy program, it's more effective. So I like doing that. I think that's a cool way to address it. And then the final thing I'll say on the testosterone is I think a lot of those studies that say testosterone is bad for the heart are like correlative rather than causation. It's just like fat, overweight dudes who eat too much junk food are more likely to die of heart disease. Thus, testosterone is somehow bad for the heart. I think they've found as long as you're within a range, like if you're pushing your testosterone to like pro bodybuilder levels, 2000 plus, I think there's a real risk. But I think they actually found that like in men who do TRT, when their testosterone is at a healthy range, like 700 to 1000, it's actually safer. There's less incidence of heart failure or heart attacks than the men who have low T.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's just like there's so many moving pieces, and at the end of the day, it's probably like be healthy, get your heart rate up every once in a while, lift weights, kind of
Yeah.
a blend of all of it.
I agree. And I think part of this, like I'm playing devil's advocate. Like I'm definitely in a season where I'm trying to put on muscle. And so like cardio, like I'm talking like somebody that does a bunch of cardio. Like
No,
I
you
don't, but at the same time, like to your point, Garrett, like I enjoy wrestling. And so every once in a while when I'm jumping in wrestling, like, I feel better if I'm doing some kind of cardio stuff. And I don't want my VO2 max to get below a certain threshold because that just sucks. Like if you ever gone to a wrestling practice and you're tired after 30 seconds, like, or, jujitsu or Muay Thai, whatever you're doing, that's not fun either. So I think there's definitely like a threshold in lifestyle. And the other thing is like, at the end of the day, I think everybody here like enjoys fitness. There's a certain like vanity to it where it's like it's fun to like look good. But like the functional aspect of like, you're not going to get tired if you're on a trip and you got to walk 20 miles around the city, or, you know, you're carrying your kid up a flight of stairs. And like, I think being prepared for life too, you could definitely get that through your strength training. But if you're not training, you know, high intensity with certain things, if you're doing like slow and controlled and like, you know, tension, like time under tension training, and you're not getting your heart rate up, I think there's value to having some cardio, not to like get too far down this rabbit hole.
Yeah. Cardio definitely helps with just circulation, which will help your training in general too. And I can definitely attest to like my first couple of Muay Thai trainings back, like I felt like I got shot in the head. Like
Yeah.
I was rocked. So it's definitely good, like I guess working on that part of my health.
For sure. All right. Last, I want to end on this because I know I think you have a lot of interesting perspectives here. What are the biggest levers people can pull there? And then I want to get into like we kind of touched. I think you hit it a little bit with like quality of food, but like this whole because Ryan and I have been talking about it's becoming more and more of a thing, like the whole non-toxic living trend. What are actual real things we can worry about there? Ryan and I just had a whole podcast on this, but I definitely want to get your perspective because you're well versed in it. Versus like, what's the frivolous bull crap? Like, what's the hierarchy of you got to worry about these things before you worry about this?
Yeah. As far as supplements go, there's 3 that I recommend every guy take no matter what. And then I have some suggestions after that. But number 1 is magnesium,
Yep.
just like a magnesium glycinate, 400 or 500 milligrams daily, preferably right before bed, specifically so that you can sleep better. Because if you sleep better, the time you're awake is 10 times better. Everything works better. After that, I would say a vitamin D3 plus K2 blend. Number 1 anti-inflammatory you could take, I think. Vitamin D3 increases the amount of calcium in your arteries, but the K2 will help shuttle that into your bones, which is why you want to have the K2 in there. And a lot of people will think this is too high, but I usually do like 10,000 IUs daily as, you know, a minimum.
Wait a minute.
I've heard that. Like, we had nutritionists at, you know, in college that were like, you know, we were in Chicago in the middle of winter. Like, we weren't outside. Our sport was in a dungeon, you know, wrestling. And they're like, you can mega dose this when you're not getting direct sun exposure. So I've heard people, especially if you're deficient, like having that much is like super effective.
I do
Yeah.
10 to 15. I'll sometimes take 10,000 in the morning and 5,000 at night.
Well, max is 300 pounds. So you got to take that with a grain of salt.
That too. When I hurt my back last year, I was looking for any way to get rid of this debilitating sciatica that I was dealing with. And I was taking like 30 to 50,000 IUs daily. So like the people that say you can't take too much vitamin D, like they say it's toxic. You would have to be taking hundreds of thousands of IUs daily for months on end to even get to that point.
Hmm.
And if you talk to people that do blood work, like ask them, have you ever seen a vitamin D toxicity? It's never happened. Like it can be off the charts, but you're not going to be to the point where it's toxic. And then the other part is like, that'll make sure that you don't get sick. And also like the next supplement I would recommend is zinc. That's the other one. You'll never get sick if you're consistently taking vitamin D3 and zinc. You know, zinc will definitely help with testosterone, keeping your prolactin in check. And yeah, so those are the 3 that I say before anything else: magnesium, vitamin D3 plus K2, and a zinc supplement. After that, I try to tell people like pick things that have been around for a long time. I don't really dive into too many synthetic supplements, but like most of the ones that I take are things that have been used in like ancient Chinese medicine. This is like a lot of this stuff I learned through Lucas Owen, and you know, things like pine pollen, things like Cistanch, which is something that Genghis Khan used to take, stuff like Tongkat Ali. Recently, I started taking royal jelly a lot, which is cool. My dad is a beekeeper, so I get raw honey on the low.
Nice.
But I want him to start giving me all the royal jelly, because that'll, you know, that'll boost your testosterone. It'll lower your prolactin. And as your prolactin goes down, your dopamine goes up. So like there's all these benefits, especially as far as like muscle growth and your energy. And I think the other one that I take really consistently is Shilajit, which is like a black, tarry, like sticky substance, which tastes disgusting, but it remineralizes your body and detoxifies your body. And that's one that I stir into my coffee every day. There's a bunch of other supplements that I'll take, but those are the ones that I have stuck to for the most part. Other things that I take that haven't necessarily been around for a long time. It's not like you can go outside and pick some magnesium off the magnesium tree. So it's like I guess that's synthetic in a way. The D3 and the zinc, like, that's kind of up in the air. Creatine too. But this other one that Lucas put me on to was taurine, which is an amino acid.
Yes,
And
I take taurine.
there's a bunch of benefits to it. I take it specifically for the stress, just to lower
Stress
cortisol.
mitigator, lowers cortisol, chills your nervous system out, like post training.
Yeah. It's like, I think people think it's bad because it's in Red Bull, but it's
Good.
like when I started taking like just like 3 grams, it wasn't like ashwagandha where, that'll lower your stress so much to where you're like numb to the pleasures in life and you're like a dull guy. Like taurine just dissipated all the worry. Like I had been a chronic overthinker for years, which was largely fixed by me fixing my diet, my sleep and lifestyle, but still running a business and just life in general, you get some nerves, and taurine really just got rid of that to where everything just felt gravy. And it helps that it boosts your test, increases your lifespan, helps with autophagy, all sorts of other stuff. Yeah. And then as far as, I don't know if you want to stick on supplements, I was going to move on to the non-toxic thing.
Ryan, you got anything on supplements?
No, I like that. I think that it's a list of, stuff I've definitely heard of, but a lot of those are stuff that I haven't taken. I mean, I think the magnesium, vitamin D, zinc, that stuff is, stuff that I've always had in rotation. So I like that a lot. And you said you are taking creatine, just to confirm. Yeah. I think it's so funny how creatine is like having a comeback now. Like it hasn't been around forever. But people love it now.
Yeah, it's cool. Creatine's cool again.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But
Not toxic movers. Like what's legit there? What is bull crap?
Yeah.
Or like what is so minuscule? Don't waste your, don't raise your cortisol thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'll say is just bringing it back to what we mentioned at the beginning, focus on leverage first. I think one thing to tie into that would be frequency. So what is going on or in your body repeatedly all day long or every day of your life? So I think talking about water would be number one. I drink Mountain Valley, which there's been, a couple of hit pieces out on Mountain Valley recently, but I've heard they've been debunked. Either way, don't drink tap water. Try not to drink water out of like plastic bottles or containers, at least not ones that are heated up in any capacity. But like for a while, I just started thinking about how can I live as close to being an animal as I possibly can? Like if I was out in the wilderness, like drinking water, like a bear drinking out of a stream doesn't have to worry about tap water, right? So like, how can I just get that situated? So I started drinking the Mountain Valley a couple of years ago. I don't even think about it anymore. This is my routine. With your coffee maker, probably not the greatest idea to heat your coffee up through a plastic machine and like boil plastic into your coffee cup every morning. And then I guess aside from drinking water, like your shower water is very important. So like a shower filter is usually one of the top things I would recommend to people, especially for like their skin health. Because if you don't have like a shower filter in your house, and you're using like, city tap water to wash your body, you're basically getting chlorine and fluoride and whatever else is in there, like all over your skin. And your skin is like, it's like a big tongue. And you'll just absorb everything right through your skin and it'll go directly into your bloodstream. And, they've found birth control in the tap water. They've found I think they found jet fuel in the tap water, but there's all sorts of crazy stuff. And there's a website you can look up in your area to see what's in there.
That's some birth control and jet fuel.
You gotta
Heck of a morning, man.
microdose that stuff. It makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so like the shower filter was a big one for me because like in 2022, that's what I was basically killing myself with. Other thing that I was doing at that time was like I was drinking Poughkeepsie City tap water out of a Brita filter that probably expired like a year before. So I was just like, just like not even trying. But yeah, so like shower filter, clean drinking water is probably the top two. Also, just thinking about your toothpaste and your toothbrush. Like I use a bamboo bristled toothbrush and like boar bristled toothbrush, and I have a natural toothpaste, probably no fluoride. There's a lot of studies coming out that just show the more fluoride in your water or whatever, like the higher the fluoride, the lower your IQ. And so like this is probably more detrimental to children, but even for you. So just like things that are going in your mouth or on your skin, like same deal with your soap. You know, I think it's a good tip to think about. If you can't eat it, it probably shouldn't go on your skin. So like I think I use a soap from this company called Healthy Soul, but it's made of like olive oil, beef tallow, like some random ingredients like that are all like natural stuff. And kind of a tricky one to worry about would be the air in wherever you're sitting all day. I think I heard somebody say that's the most toxic thing in your house is the air. So look into an air purifier if you can. Like it's honestly not even something that I've gone as far as to get handled. So like I think the step one is just getting in the know and like making decisions from a point of knowledge instead of just like buying everything that every biohacker tells you to do to detoxify your house. Like part of those people's accounts is just like fear. You know, that's the number one marketing is like fear, I think, right? Or
For sure.
I can't remember if
Especially
sex is number one.
on this topic, like non-toxic, like fear is, I mean, think about the name, like non-toxic. It's like a fear
Like,
is
yeah.
the driver here.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you could think about your clothes. I would say the most important thing is that you just have 100% cotton boxers or underwear. You know, if you have a polyester shirt, it's probably not great. Like ideally you're using wool or linen or 100% cotton, organic preferably, but at least don't put polyester plastic underwear on your balls.
Yeah.
Like I heard that's the worst thing that you can do. And it literally works as like a contraceptive, which is kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, again, like leverage, just always think about like, you know, what's going in your mouth. Number one, next thing would be on your skin. I guess what you're breathing in. And yeah, this is going to mean different things for different people. Like the person that's working a cashier job, like rubbing receipts all over their face, like that guy's got to quit his job. But you know, somebody like us, like for just going to the store, like real quick, we throw the receipt in the bag. Like it's not going to kill you. You're not
Yeah.
my test. Yeah. Like you're going to be all right. And, yeah, I guess I'm seeing a lot of stuff about EMFs and like you don't want to have your phone in your pocket and stuff. Like I try to think about that stuff, but you know, sometimes it's just impractical to do so. Like, you know, maybe there's going to be technology to get rid of that in the future, but I guess don't sit your laptop directly on your balls and like, you know, like try at least, but don't go, you don't need to sit like 10 feet away from your computer. Like if I need to use a microwave, I'll use it, but I try not to use it every day or anything. This goes back to my thing earlier. I said about just being practical. If you being afraid of something being toxic gets in the way of what you need to do, like you got to figure out your priorities. And not that health shouldn't be a priority, but you know, you want to make sure that you're just sort of like blending these two areas of your life together in the most conducive fashion and being efficient and not, you know, not going too crazy. I think they say it's an eating disorder if you're trying to eat too clean, which I mean, it sounds like a good disorder to me, but there's something to be said about
So
like
you
the
can
metaphysical
definitely,
side of this.
yeah, you
What's
can like have it where the stress caused by all of that starts to outweigh the health benefit you're getting from the clean eating. You know, it's like
Yeah,
it's so complex and nuanced, and yeah,
yeah.
not
There's
straightforward.
like these there's like these people, I can't remember where I saw this, but this guy was talking about how there's these communities somewhere in Europe. It's probably like Greece or something like that. It's people, they smoke cigarettes every day. They don't do grounding. They drink alcohol daily, but they live longer than anybody because they have a low stress lifestyle. They have good social connections and family values. And, your thoughts will affect your physiology, which is the crazy part.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan and I were talking about this 2 episodes ago, and, like, Costa Rica, the Nicoyan Peninsula, where I met Andrew, it's one of the blue
Yeah.
zones, 100+ year old average lifespan. They use a shit ton of glyphosates in Costa Rica. But guess what? They're eating, like, whole foods, and they live a pretty chill lifestyle. So even if your
Mhm.
whole foods have glyphosate on it, like, you're gonna live longer than if you're eating processed foods and stressing out a bunch in the US. Like, it's just nuance. There's so many layers to it all. But I
Mhm.
think, yeah, Ryan and I did a podcast on the non-toxic levers, and I think it was pretty similar to what you went through in terms of bigger ones you can pull.
Yeah, I think it's a good filter. Like, what do you do a lot? Fix those. Those are high leverage, high, impact opportunities. And that's the best place to start instead of freaking out. Like, don't give me that receipt.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you're going out with your friends or you go on a trip and they don't have the right soap in the hotel, like, sorry, you're gonna be alright for a couple days. Like, just do it most of the time. Yep. Awesome. Well, we'll definitely, I think we'll get you on again. I'd love to like do a much deeper dive into one of these, just like an entire episode on cortisol mitigation or something like that. But I think this was a really good overview of like big levers you can pull, especially for men's health.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you guys for having me. It was a
Yeah,
great
thanks,
discussion.
Garrett. Maybe real quick, we'll link stuff below, but just shout out where people can find you.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Garrett_Salem, GARRETT_SALE, Garrett Salem on YouTube. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for
Heck
coming
yeah.
on, man.
All right. Thank you guys.